January 3rd, 2024, a New York courtroom. The case was called Giuffre versus Maxwell. At first glance, it didn't seem historic. It wasn't a criminal trial. No new charges were filed, but once the documents went public, something strange happened. Names began to pop out: former presidents, billionaires, people like Bill Clinton and Bill Gates. Not accused, not charged, just mentioned inside court records, and all of them were connected in one way or other to the same man, Jeffrey Epstein. A financier, a convicted sex offender, and a man whose private world overlapped with most powerful circles on earth. So that raised a bigger question. What exactly were these documents? What were they sealed for? And what do they actually tell us?
Jeffrey Epstein.
Epstein files.
Epstein files.
Jeffrey Epstein was not born powerful. He wasn't a billionaire by inheritance. He started as a college dropout. In 1970s, Epstein taught math at an elite private school in New York, a place where the children of bankers, executives, and future leaders studied. That's where everything changed. Epstein didn't rise by building companies, he rose by building access. In 1980s, 1990s, he had reinvented himself as a mysterious financier, someone who managed money for the ultra-wealthy, but whose actual business model was never fully clear. No public fund, no transparent client list, just private jets, private islands, and private introductions. But between that image was something darker. Over time, multiple women came forward said that they were sexually abused as minors.
We were underage. We were little girls.
I was 16.
I was 16.
I started going to him when I was like 14 turning 15.
If you think at 14, $200, that's a lot of money at 14 years old. I mean, that's a lot of money now.
She's like, oh, do you need to make any extra money? I'm like, yeah. She's like, okay, I can give you, like $200. It's this older guy in Palm Beach. He gets a lot of massages from girls. That was really...
Recruited, trafficked, and exploited inside Epstein's world.
They were recruited by someone who was adept at finding girls that would be willing to go to a house for a few $100s, and as it started out, give a man a back rub, but in many cases it turned into something far worse than that, elevated to a crime, and a serious crime, in some cases sexual batteries.
In 2008, Epstein was convicted in Florida for sex offenses involving a minor. He served a controversial lenient sentence.
On June 30th, 2008, Jeffrey Epstein, a Palm Beach multimillionaire hedge fund manager, received what might have been the most lenient plea deal for a serial sex offender in U.S. history.
One that later drew national outrage, and yet Epstein returned to elite society. He kept flying, he kept networking, all that, which raised a question that would later haunt the courts. Let's understand more in Chapter 2. The Epstein files are not one file. There are thousands of pages of court records, emails, depositions, exhibits, motion files by lawyers. All of them came from one civil case, Giuffre versus Ghislaine Maxwell. It was a defamation lawsuit. Okay, for 12 years like us, this is what defamation is. Giuffre, one of Epstein's victims, accused Ghislaine Maxwell of felicitating abuse. Maxwell publicly denied it and called Giuffre a liar. That denial is what triggered the case. During discovery, both sides were forced to turn over evidence, and that's where the documents came from. Not because the court was investigating Epstein again. He was already dead at that time.
On the morning of August 10, 2019, convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein was discovered dead in his cell at the Metropolitan Correctional Center in Lower Manhattan. Then U.S. Attorney General Bill Barr ordered an immediate investigation.
We will get to the bottom of what happened, and there will be accountability.
Several days later, the chief medical examiner of New York City ruled his death a suicide. But major questions remain, including how and even with what.
You can also see on the back wall one of the prison cameras. It was streaming, but not recording, due to a hard drive malfunction that had been identified but not fixed, according to the Department of Justice report. Above that, in a similar plastic slip, is the ID card for Epstein's former roommate, Efrain Reyes. Cells typically hold 2 inmates, and following a suspected suicide attempt, Epstein was mandated to have one. The day before Epstein's death, Reyes had been transferred out of the prison and brought to another facility. Former Bureau of Prisons officials were surprised to see Reyes's card still on the door. They're meant to confirm the identity of inmates as they're transferred and should have stayed with Reyes, or the officers processing his transfer.
Most of these documents were sealed automatically, not because they were classified, not because they were top secret, but because courts often seal discovery to protect victim identities, third parties, and most importantly, unproven allegations. At that time, sealing was routine. The case later settled in 2017, no verdict, no judgment. It was settled, which created a strange situation. Thousands of pages existed inside the court system, documents that shaped legal arguments, documents judges had reviewed, but public wasn't allowed to see them. To understand why Epstein files stay sealed, you have to understand how courts actually work. When a lawsuit enters the discovery phase, both sides were forced to hand over evidence. A lot of it. Emails that were never meant to public, depositions filed with allegations, names of people who were never charged with a crime. Courts know something important. Because discovery is messy, it's raw, unfiltered, and often full of claims that have never been tested in court. That's why judges frequently allow discovery material to be sealed by default. Not to hide the truth, but to prevent the irreversible damage, because once the name is in public, you cannot put it back. In the Epstein-Maxwell case, the stakes were even higher because the documents involve survivors of sexual abuse, sensitive personal testimony, third parties with no opportunity to defend themselves. So the court made a decision. Seal first, review later. At that time, this wasn't controversial, it was a routine. For years, privacy won, not because someone ordered a cover-up, but because no one had forced the court to revisit the seal. Until journalists did. Reporters argued something simple. If courts are using these documents to make decisions, the public deserves to see them, at least in part. Judges didn't agree immediately, but they chose the hardest path. They ordered a document-by-document review, not a dump, not a leak.
Late this afternoon, the Justice Department began releasing thousands of pages of files and communications related to the late convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. The new documents include photos, call logs, court filings, and more, many of them heavily redacted. Our White House correspondent Liz Landers joins us now. So Liz, you and our team have been reading through these documents. What stands out so far?
Well, there are thousands of documents that have been released today. That is far fewer than the Attorney General, the Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche had said, and he has said that this will take a few weeks. What we have noticed in today's release so far is that this is divided into several different categories, and much of the new information is coming out in what is the Department of Justice disclosure category. We've seen a redacted masseuse list with more than 250 names, all redacted. We've also found at least one of the grand jury documents in there from the United States versus Epstein. That is key. We have not gone through that document yet, but that is certainly something we will be looking through. There are tons and tons of photos in this. That's really what is the bulk of what's in today's release. Many more pictures showing Jeffrey Epstein and his lifestyle, including his former girlfriend, Ghislaine Maxwell. Also, former President Bill Clinton is in a number of these photographs. He's traveling with Ghislaine Maxwell in one of these pictures. They appear to be in a foreign country. There's another photograph of them in a swimming pool. And then there are another several photos of the former president with women whose faces are redacted. Now, former President Clinton is not accused of any wrongdoing in relation to this Jeffrey Epstein relationship that he had. And these are undated photos, so we don't know when these pictures were taken of the former president.
By heavily redacted, I mean a lot of pages that look like this, and this, and this, and this, and this. And that's all I was going to do to the printer to make the point. Okay, there's a lot more of them.
Which brings us to the moment of everything changed. Not because the file suddenly became dangerous, not because the court decided the public interest had finally caught up. That's where the controversy begins, because once the seal was lifted, people saw names, and many assumed the wrong things. When the Epstein files were unsealed, most people didn't read the documents. They read the headlines. and the headlines focused on one thing: names. Like famous names, powerful names, people connected to politics, money, science, royalty, religion. For many viewers, that led a simple assumption: if a name appears in the files, they must be guilty. That assumption is wrong, because the truth and it matters. Names appear in these documents for three main reasons. First, because someone mentioned them in a sworn testimony. Deposition records what a witness says, not what a court has proven. Second, because names appeared in emails, contacts, or schedules turned over during discovery. But discovery does not filter truth, it collects information.
So being mentioned does not mean being accused, and that distinction is very, very important.
Third, because Epstein himself often name dropped because he built his power by association, by presenting himself as connected to important people. Court was clear about this. It stated explicitly, the appearance of a name does not imply wrongdoing. No charges, no verdicts, just raw legal material. That's why the judges handled the unsealing so carefully. Because the goal wasn't exposure, it was balance between the public's right to know and the individual's right not to be destroyed by unproven allegation. It was unsettling when I see these images and read the documents. This shows how power moves through systems, how courts struggle between privacy and transparency, and how truth in legal world is often slow, incomplete, and uncomfortable. Jeffrey Epstein is gone, Ghislaine Maxwell is in prison, but questions remain. It's a developing story. Let's see what will happen. And thank you for watching the video. Your support means a lot to me. So subscribe. And I have pinned a comment in the comment box. Check that once. And bye.